What you got there, Mark?
This is my SEO strategy, Eric.
All in one egg?
Yep, 100% Google. They're the king of search. Google is all I need.
I don't know, Mark. Is that really wise? I mean, have you considered the increasing competition Google has from Amazon, Facebook, and many others? If you base your entire search strategy on Google, you could end up with egg on your face. Make no mistake, Google is still extremely important for any SEO strategy, but it's also true that Google has some real competition out there, and you ignore them at your own peril. In fact, if you concentrate only on Google for your search marketing, you could end up with egg. Yeah, well, you get the idea.
So Eric, when it comes to SEO, Google is so dominant. Isn't optimizing for Google search enough?
Well, Google is still the big dog in traditional search, but it'd be wrong to think that's the end of the story. These days, search involves more than what we might call traditional search, such as entering a query in the Google search box and getting a series of links to web pages. And it's in the more non-traditional types of search where Google is feeling some real competition.
Okay, before we get into what those competitors are doing, help us understand Google's core business.
Sure. That's a good place to start because it will help us to broaden our definition of search. It's interesting to go back to Google's own mission statement, which is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. That suggests that even Google has a broader view of what they do, not one limited to typing a query into a search box on their site or even in an app.
So users just want the information and they want to get it with the least friction possible, right?
Absolutely. And these days, they're getting a lot more ways to access that information than just a traditional Google search box.
Oh, can you give us some examples?
Sure. Let's start with Amazon.
Amazon?
Yes, at least in the area of product searches. In fact, in 2014, Google's executive chairman, Eric Schmidt, said, "Many people think our main competition is Bing or Yahoo, but really, our biggest search competitor is Amazon." The New York Times cited data from Forrester Research that showed that a third of online users started their product search on Amazon, while only 13% went to a traditional search engine. So in the product space, Google is already behind and struggling to catch up. Another example is Apple. Since iPhone market share lags way behind Google's Android operating system in the smartphone market, it might not seem like Apple is much of a threat. But don't count out Apple's ability to constantly innovate. Also, Apple often plays the spoiler to Google's efforts, such as the recent permission for ad blocking software to work on the iPhone. That strikes at the core of Google's revenue stream. Also, like Facebook, which we'll look at in a moment, Apple is developing ways of hosting content outside of the traditional websites accessed by Google search. Increasing use of ad blockers could drive more publishers to make use of these alternative means of publishing monetized content.
Now, you mentioned Facebook. They are the 500-pound gorilla in this whole discussion, aren't they?
They sure are. Right now, Google gets the majority of online ad revenue, but Facebook is by far the biggest competitor there and gaining fast. Facebook's ability to target over 1.6 billion active users based on their intimate knowledge of their demographics as well as their likes and dislikes is very attractive to advertisers. Also, Facebook has become the primary traffic driver to websites in many cases. This chart shows what happened with What ISIS Wants, the most popular story published by The Atlantic last year. The light blue line that you see way up top is from Facebook. Notice how it totally dominated the other sources, including Google, for at least a month after the story was published. The fact is that more people are seeing top news stories and viral content via Facebook than on any other source.
Okay, so Facebook, Apple, Amazon, those all represent real challenges to Google's core business. But there are challenges emerging from new technology as well, right?
Right. We don't have time in this brief video to go over all of those in detail, but let me list just a few. Let's start with apps. Recent data from ComScore shows that users now spend 44% of their digital media time in apps. It's not surprising then that we see a head-to-head fight in that area between Facebook and Google. As you can see in this chart, the top 6 apps in the US are either from Facebook or Google, as well as 8 out of the top 10. Another area is the rise of texting and private messaging. When you consider that in a Nielsen survey, 83% of respondents said they trust recommendations from friends and family the most, you begin to understand that private messaging is a huge influencer on sales and one that is largely invisible to marketers.
Now, you can get a lot more detail on the challenges to Google in Eric's Search Engine Land article at the link on your screen now. So Eric, what should marketers and businesses do in light of what you just shared?
Well, they should certainly be diversifying their marketing strategies. Certainly don't ignore Google, but make sure you're at least thinking about each of the following. 1, do you have a strategy for scaling your sales on Amazon? 2, could native advertising be an alternative for you given the rise of ad blockers? 3, given Facebook's huge audience and amazing targeting abilities, are you learning how to advertise there? With more and more online time being spent in apps, should your business develop one? Not every business will benefit from its own app, but are you optimizing for how you show up in third-party apps? And finally, what are you doing to build the reach and reputation of your brand? That's probably the best way to take advantage of what some people call dark social, the private communications among friends and family.
Thanks, Eric. A lot to chew on there. Now, if your company needs help meeting the emerging challenges in online marketing, please come talk with us at Stone Temple Consulting. We're helping some of the largest brands in the world to stay ahead of the wave in the ever-changing digital world. Perhaps we can help you to excel in Google and beyond.
In the meantime, be sure to join us every Monday for another episode of Here's Why. Now, let's go to see if Mark was able to clean up his digital marketing mess.
Hey Eric, look, I've diversified my search marketing strategies. My Google egg is still really important, but I'm paying attention to all those other things you mentioned now too.
Yes, that's good, but now you've got all your eggs in one basket.
No more metaphors for you, 1 year.